that Lauren Southern's been critical of herself, call herself a coward. So like, I should have done better, right? And she gets it, she regrets it. And I'm like, high horse. And then I'm like, hypocrite. So what do? Let's talk about Tommy Robinson. Tell you what, I don't like Tommy Robinson. I would, I've always though respected him as being someone who was fucking dangerous. And that's the way I've addressed him. I think he's wrong about all kinds of things, but it's like the effect that he has, he's just totally blind to. He doesn't care. He doesn't care that his cult of personality has kind of repercussions. He doesn't care that he's an ever so useful, like Gollum, boogeyman. He just doesn't care about that. He doesn't care that his actual name's weaponized. Doesn't care. It's like I have to be careful what I say about him because from time to time I like to move around. Like a person, like go to the shops, have a walk about. I like that, part of my life, And maybe I might one day have those privileges curtailed by certain people. Excuse me. So, it's like he's such a divisive figure in this part of the world. If you were to flat out say, I denounce this guy, he's trouble. You could expect some idiot use that as an excuse to have some shit with you. Because he's been given an excuse and he enjoys that kind of thing. It's like he's the biggest enabler of dickheads. So it's like, so they make a thing of him, therefore you make a thing of it, and next thing you know, someone will say, you sold out Tommy. I'm like, what? As if I have some reason to have an allegiance to this person. It's like, have you sworn yourself over to him? And it seems, when they feel like they've got the right to like get in your face because you've been critical. So it's like, Tommy's got a cult of personality. Tommy's got a little religion going. Got a little cult about him. And in his name, people will come at you. There's people leave me comments in this video saying, how dare you talk about Tommy that way? You don't know the guy. Now, he's done jackass things in my part of the world, like run to be a local member of the European Parliament thinking that he'd get elected because he's so popular. And it'd be a matter of, are you for real? It's like, you're infamous. It's like you're a lightning rod. It's like every dickhead of every stripe comes after you. You're divisive. No one's voting for you. Well, he got about, I don't know, he didn't get many votes at all. He got his internet following to all vote for him. And there weren't that many of them. And he got milkshake thrown over him. Got an unfriendly welcome. I'm like, what do you expect, mate? It's like you've made political currency of something that goes on everywhere and is like the big hush hush. The thing that like feminism covers up for. Like really big hush hush. It's like, there's a lot of this about. We know we've got a problem. We don't talk about this. It's like this is the sort of talk normally that would get people in a lot of trouble with other people. Because if you start digging around, right, in the graveyard looking for people who've had some like underage sex in a town like Rochdale, right? You're going to find an incredible amount of it. Like an incredible amount of it. And if you start digging around in that, it's like, these Pakistanis have been caught doing it, let's make it all about them. And then it's like everyone else who's on the hook, potentially, if there was some kind of global Me Too thing that happened, right? You'd have to turn the world into an open fucking prison to lock them all up. It's like there's a lot of water under the bridge. And people get up to all sorts. And then so suddenly we pretend they don't get up to all sorts. And we pretend that this is a Pakistani Muslim thing. And it's like, then localise it. It's like, okay, well, localise, we'll make it about Rochdale. It's like, there's quite a few Pakistani guys who use prostitutes. Rochdale, that's been a known thing for 25 years. As to part of that nighttime economy is that marketplace. Let's pretend that's not a thing. Let's pretend it doesn't exist. And let's make it all about one thing. Who do you think cheers when you can say, oh, well, it's the Pakis? Who do you think cheers? Everyone else who's potentially on the hook for it. Yeah, let's make it all about them. So it's a matter of the subject to being messed with as a kid, you know, is a little bit, let's say, sensitive amongst everyone. So you come along and you throw that shit out. But you throw it out here. You're talking about what goes on here, a place you don't know, a place you don't fucking live in. Place you've only ever visited a couple of times, and you talk about what it is to be working class northern. You haven't got a fucking clue what that means, what that is. You're not from here. You don't get it. And it's like, we do what we can in our own lives to prevent this sort of stuff going on. But our powers are zero. Because you can't save people from themselves, not even your own kids, not anymore. It's like, how and why do people get in so much trouble in the first place? And it'd be a matter of, good luck solving that, but that's the question to be asking, not about we have to do something about these migrants. And it's like, yes, these migrants who use prostitutes, and they're not fussy. These girls that get passed around. It's like all that's happened is as the internet's come along and accentuated something that was already there. It's like other groups of people exploit the same weakness in children. Many others. Individuals and collectives. But we're going to take something that we don't talk about at all, right? Ever. And shine a light on one little corner of it that we can politicise. It's disgusting what you did, what Tommy Robinson, creating a movement out of that. Creating a movement out of it, no. It's like there's nothing more toxic than that. It's like you'll start a movement based on that. It's like Simon Dankzuck, Rochdale former MP. Around the same time that Tommy Robinson was building himself up as being, I'm exposing this, I'm fighting this. He did the same. He hung out a lot of no leftists or Tories, a load of conservatives and Liberal Democrats who everybody already knew what they were up to, but nobody was going to do anything. And you'd be punished for talking about it. Guys like Cyril Smith. There's a few of them. He exposed a few of them. And he thought he had the right to be a celebrity as well because he'd dug up a load of corpses in a graveyard. And then he's like, his wife wants to be on Strictly Come Dancing. She's getting on television and breaking down and telling terrible stories of child abuse. It's like, Look at all these people that movement triggered in this part of the world. Just turned them into fucking loonies. It's like, we got a problem here with fucking loonies. It's like, a lot of them have got it under control, but I tell you what, when you bring out the old outrage and bring back the old memories of the old neighbourhood and the things they know and the things they've seen, by saying this is a thing, it's like, no. It's like, in this place, abuse is endemic. And people turning a blind eye to it is why it goes on, but everyone fails. Everyone fails it. You can't defend people anymore. People will do what they want to do, and I'm not saying I'm not justifying it in any way. It's a disaster that young kids, boys and girls, find themselves in the company of fucking arseholes. It's a disaster. But it's like, it's part of I hate to say it, but life in the big town. The schools you go to, the people you get thrown in with. You make friends with kids at school, it turns out that they are scroats who are being dragged up, being raised like dogs, but they're your mates. Place like this. It's like, do me a favour, Tommy. It's like, you ain't got first fucking clue about what created that. And you're blind to everything else but it. And what you've actually done is, you've actually stopped in its tracks there being a really honest conversation about the mental health of this country. And instead you just exploited it. Just exploited it. Black Lives Matter, they make money like milking the corpses of dead black men usually. They see it as an earner. It's like, how's pointing to the abuse of children and talking about it and invoking it, how's that any different? Who's for that? It's a dumbass movement. He's not willing to have, right? In fact, do you know what it is, There's no one in the media, right, who's got the guts or actually knows enough to take him on. But there are those who can take him on and he avoids them. There are those who can say to him, look, you're wrong here. You're causing more harm than good you're doing. He'll forever ignore people who can make that case to him, because there's a lot of them. You can get to ever bring his name up. It's like certain circles. He gets brought up a lot because he's kind of the right-wing figure from the internet that everyone's heard of, that every activist at every level of the game heard of, and anyone who's involved actually with communities see him as being an astonishing, provocative arsehole. Those faced with the day-to-days of it, of the shit that goes down, and that no one's lily white, and you'll find that abuse in the sneakiest of fucking places, and it'd be shocking, and that's why people get away with it, because they won't face the truth of it. People who have that every day, as to where you'll get to talking to people and they'll be like, I was talking once to an activist. She was like, there's a couple of good ones I've spoken to. But one who was, she was like a mental health sort of advocate who worked for some charity or agency. And she was this little Pakistani woman who spoke in this really broad Rochdale accent. And she works with like kids who've been abused. And her secret was that, she'd been through so much and seen so much fucking crazy shit in her own life. Nothing could surprise her. Maybe not, it doesn't necessarily make her good at what she does, but it makes it so she can survive it because she's experienced similar. She'd had it super rough, and she's like, guys like him, she was like, she's like, doesn't seem to realise that there's like a gay Muslim community. Doesn't seem to realise that there's like a swinger Muslim community. Doesn't seem to think that there's an alcohol partying Muslim community. Well, I'm like, it's like, it's ridiculous as to when that label started to be thrown around, it's like, oh, that's just worthless. It's terrible. It's like, it's an overgeneralization of individual people. It's to kind of herd them all in a group and tar them all with the same brush, to start throwing around Muslim, like these Muslims. It's like, how could that not be provocative to those who know better? As to say, that guy over the road, I happily see him fucking dead. He is a deadbeat fucking arsehole. I can't stand that nasty piece of work. And he be a Muslim too. It's like, it's a lame-brained weapon to reach for. And that's what's for sale. And it's like, he stoked that up. There were no real, there were, people generally look out for their own, or try to look out for their own. It's when people don't have anyone to look out for them when things go wrong. And it's like, these notions that have gone around that have actually like separated generations of people, separated them. Oh no, we don't talk to them, their methods are unsound. So it's made all this cult thinking, all this us and them, right? It's actually made people isolated. It's instructed people they'd be better off being isolated, and then the world's made them, the real world's like, oh, thanks for isolating all these people that we can now exploit. Thanks for doing that. Thanks for separating them from the families. Thanks for making it so they don't talk to the parents anymore and that they blame them. Well done. You've just created more meat forever grinder. Thank you very much. Most people people, right, are naturally conservatives. Naturally. It's like humans working properly as default with nuclear families and looking out for each other and keeping degenerate shit amongst themselves down to a reasonable level. But it's like Muslim communities, right, have got like doomers, like fearmongers amongst them from the left, who will use the name of Tommy Robinson and the visions of the right-wing fucking mob of lunatics and frighten the local communities into voting for them, who will promise to address this and protect them and fight actively against Islamophobia. So he empowers the worst of the left in our localities. All they have to do is throw that out and say, oh, right-wing violence. The dark day with the right-wing violence. All they have to do is keep throwing that and throwing that and throwing that, and then he gets on Twitter or does something, or he's arrested, and then there's a thing, and then the media friends can put it out. Oh, once again, the threat of white supremacists. Thanks. Thanks for providing all the propaganda that they need to stay in power in the northwest of England forever. Thanks for that. So yeah, keep doing it. Yeah. You're doing a real fucking job for them. there's something about that day, right? That guy is able to call an event and a load of guys turn up. And they're like, oh, Tommy. And they're these football lads. They're violent lads. They're like an excuse to go off. And they're all there with the banners and the tattoos and the fucking muscle dummies. They're there for trouble. And he brings them with him. And then he can't control them. And then those idiots in the world, they will do things ostensibly on his behalf. How dare you, John, speak so terribly of Tommy? How dare you? You're a traitor to Tommy. Excuse me. What's he ever done for me? All he's done for me is have fucking idiots from his cabal say things to me like, you're from Rochdale and you've done nothing to stop those grooming gangs. You're just as guilty as the rapists. And I'm like, I did try and save one of my school friends when she was 13 though from a fucking milkman. I tried, but I was told to shut up and never speak of it again or I'd be killed. Excuse me. Yeah. I tried to intervene in someone I really cared about at school when she was about 15 being like passed around by the cool Pakistani kids who had all they'd all learned how to rap and disco dance, and they were like Michael Jackson, and they were really impressive to these young girls. None of this. They were just impressive to them. They were the good-looking ones started to learn how to get to the girls, to groom them. And I was dead set against a girl I liked being, dragged into this because it's a matter of you going out with this one, then you going out with this one, and I'd seen it happen, and I'm like, I quite liked her. So what that led to was like a fucking fight on a game of football where I played against her, Pakistani boyfriend, and I tackled him. He kicked me. I punched him. He got up. He punched me. I grabbed hold of him by face and stuffed him into the ground, and then dragged him to a fucking puddle and set about trying to drown him. Oh yeah, I've done my bit in the fucking past to try. Been there. Tried. You can't do anything. It's like those who you love, right, are always being groomed and sought after and lied to and used by guys who are the generation above you. This place. You'd be 14, you'd be sat in a chemistry lesson next to someone who you'd gone to school with since she was 5. And you said to her, you'd be my girlfriend. And she'll say, John, I would. But it's like, you haven't got anything for me, have you? Excuse me? Well, it's like, you haven't got a car. It's like, I'm 14, 13, 14. Yeah, you see, well, my boyfriend's got a car. And it'd be some kid at 19 or 20. And it'd be, once these guys get into the girls, it's like, oh, they say girls grow up faster. It's like, yeah, dead right they do. You'll never talk, as being the same age, you'll never talk a word of sense into them once guys are like 25 and 26 have been seen to them when they're 13 or 14. It's like that's what goes on. It's like this is a big thing. This is huge. It's like if you want to talk about this, it's just disgusting and distasteful. Horrible. But hey, if you want to open the door to it, why don't we have a proper conversation about it? It's like, disgusted by it as to how it gained traction as a movement and then able to latch itself on to things that were a little bit more noble. And then, you know, you have a bit of a gathering, you put on an event, and your dickheads have all turned up and they're all pushing and shoving, calling people pedos. Nah. They're a tyranny worse than the one we face. Life's tough enough without people like that coming along to try and exploit the worst of it for their own ends, to fight it. By blaming one group for it. It's disgusting. It's like, who thinks like that? It's like, well,